What's going on, everyone? I'm Tremel Thompson, and welcome to the Progressive Action TV show. If you thought last week's show was good, where I was talking about how the MTA is attempting to discipline me for exposing their corruption, their discrimination in the Old Boys Network, if you thought that show was good, you have seen nothing yet. This show is going to top that show by 10. And we're going to call this show the Checkmate Show, because I'm going to show them how this is supposed to go. But before we get into that, I want to get into some housekeeping. We are having a rally. It's called the MTA Workers and Riders Rally. We're going to be talking about a whole bunch of topics. This is going to be the first time ever in the history of Local 100 and the riders of New York City where we become allies against the MTA. We're going to be talking about issues regarding rider and worker safety. If you just been paying attention to the news within today, someone was just killed at Jamaica Parsons, shot on the platform. I've been talking about gun violence on our properties for a very long time now, and someone got killed yesterday. We're going to talk about accessibility, subway bus accessoride, women's issues, discipline, homelessness, EDP issues, public restrooms, hazard pay, MTA executives accountability. Like I said, this is just a few of the topics. You could come bring a sign, whatever you wanted to say, whatever your concern is. Bring it. The date is May 14th, 2022. That is a Saturday. The location, very important. Church Avenue on the B and Q lines. There's no B service because it's a Saturday that day. There's no B on the weekend. So you take the Q to Church Avenue. We will be meeting at the where the token booth clerk is. That is actually on Church Avenue itself. And the time is at 10 a.m. Make sure that you are there. It's going to be an historic day. We're going to do something that was never done before. And y'all know I'm about bringing that heat and taking things up to the next level. So make sure that you're there. Bring your family, bring your friends. Like I said, this is the first time ever workers and riders are coming together to go against the enemy. The enemy is the MTA. They do not care about safety. They don't care about worker safety. They don't care about rider safety. All of it is virtue signaling. They really don't care. And you guys already know my motto. If they can't protect the workers, how can they protect you? Now we're going to get into this show. And like I said, let me take a sip of water. This show is going to be crazy. Now, the reason why they are writing me up is because of a guy named Charles Hinske. Acto is actually his title. Acting Chief Officer Charles Hinske. He banged me in. He reported me for posting his disciplinary history on the internet. And I'm going to explain why it was done. I'm going to explain a lot of things. I'm actually going to play a recording that's going to surprise you guys. And I'm going to talk about my Dan packet, the things that's in my Dan packet that they tried to base me on. But I want to start off with, I went to the board meeting December 18th, 2019. Remember that date, December 18th, 2019, to talk about Mr. Hinske and how he's doing business and how he's targeting me and nepotism and all that other stuff. So let's get into that video real quick.
Our next speaker is Tremel Thompson, followed by Alberto Alamo.
You know, it's bad enough we got to come to work and get harassed and beat up by the passengers. But what happens when this happens, when management does this? This is about Assistant Chief Transportation Officer Charles Hinske specifically. In 2016, he came and put up a bulletin, wrote up his own bulletin saying that employees can't charge or use their electronic devices in the lunchroom and lunch area. In 2017, he came and put up employee incident reports and saying learn from others. That didn't come down until I got it in the Daily News. This current contract, you guys claim that there's no light duty positions for women. In fact, y'all got committees on committees on committees to try to figure out light duty work for women and on his job. Can someone explain to me how Mr. Hinske brother got a light duty position at 130 Livingston Street? How does that happen without nepotism being involved? He can't even pick these jobs, these office jobs, if he wanted to. Any pregnant woman would love to have that office job instead of climbing over third rails, climbing on top of trains, operating a bus so they belly won't be hitting the steering wheel or pulling 40-pound garbage bags. Earlier this year, Mr. Hinske targeted me, and he was bragging that he was able to write me up. It got thrown out because by rule it wasn't my fault. But ironically, 25 days later, he tried to get me to change my statement on the G2. He sent the TSS to do that via another superintendent. And just recently, he claimed that I was tweeting on my train. Why would I do that when most of the bosses here follow my Twitter? It shows that he's targeting me. And when you target me and affect me personally, you affect this guy right here. This is my son. And once you campaign to target me, obviously and eventually you will get elected. And maybe the MTA need to change the name to the ISM because you guys got all the isms. Cronyism, nepotism.
Please kindly conclude your remarks. Thank you.
See, the problem with Acto Hinske is that he been ruling with an iron fist for years without being checked, right? And we talking about a set of let's keep it 100, a set of white men who don't like to take order from nobody, right? Specifically speaking, a black male, right? He's been ruling with an iron fist. He's been making up his own rules as he went along. He been directing other supervisors to put up our incident reports under his watch, under his supervision. And that didn't change. That was happening for decades. And he just carried that torch, right, of public flogging employees. He carried that torch. That changed once I got that in the Daily News. So he's upset that he's not allowed to rule the way he been wanting to rule or been allowed to rule for years with impunity without being checked because none of his superiors care the workers in New York City Transit. This is a fact. This is the fact. And he had a reason to be mad at me because I'm the one who alerted the media and got it into the media and showed how the MTA treat their workers. Now, like I said, that was December 18th, 2020. I mean, December 18th, 2019. Apologize. After that board meeting, I got a letter from the MTA basically stating that some of the comments that I made during the 2019 board meeting, they wanted to speak to me about. And let's be clear, this was up under Andy Byford leadership, the former president. And Byford was a different type of manager. Byford was the type of manager that at least acted like he cared for the employees. I do think that he did care because he was a subway worker at one time, not like a lot of these other presidents who never were subway workers. So I do think that he had a soft side for workers at the end of the day. So I guess he sent a letter or told SIR and EEO to call me down so we could schedule a meeting. That meeting did take place January 2nd, 2020. Where I did meet with I think she was the vice president of SIR, Miranda Grant, the vice president of EEO, Joelle Andrews, and they asked me about, or I made comments about Hinske targeting me, the nepotism of him getting his brother's a train operator, and he gave his brother an office job. Meanwhile, you have a lot of women on the job working until they 7, 8, 9 months pregnant, climbing up and down trains, driving buses, operating trains, having to stand up, having to do BIE checks. For those who don't know, BIE is when a train breaks an emergency in between terminals. A train operator have to walk all the way around the train, up and down the train car, and that could be very strenuous for a pregnant woman. Meanwhile, Hinske was giving his brother light duty work where the MTA said didn't exist, but it obviously existed for Hinske's brother. And it showed the nepotism. Now, like I said, I got my Dan packet right here. I have my part of my Dan packet. I'm going to be talking about bringing up some excerpts from their investigation, right? I want to make it clear, I was never at one time asked to be investigated during this investigation. Miranda Grant never asked me any questions regarding these new charges that I'm being brought up on. But I want to read some excerpts from this investigation. And to be clear, this was all started by Charles Hinske. This is all started by Charles Hinske, all because he was targeting me. He wanted payback for me making life hard on him. Now, let me read the first excerpt. On August 20th, 2021, Acto Hinske forwarded an email to SIR, which indicated that C.R. Thompson published the disciplinary history of line superintendent Mark Bible on his social media platform. Why did I post General Superintendent Mark Bible discipline history? Because there seems to be a two-tier system when it comes to discipline. When white management or anyone in the old boys network do something egregious, they given second and third chances. When you're not a part of that network and you're black specifically, you get hit with every letter of the law, right? And it showed a pattern of how the old boy network, how they operate and how they take care of one another. So that's why I did that. On December 20th, 2021, OLR forwarded to SIR. Now, OLR is Office of Labor Relations, forwarded to SIR a December 7th email from Acto Hinske in which he alleged in relevant part that on April 18th, 2021, C.R. Thompson broadcast a video on his social media platform where he published a redacted copy of my disciplinary history for his viewers to see. And within the next few minutes of his same broadcast, he specifically announced that I, Charles Hinske, had a bias activity violation on my disciplinary history. Acto Hinske reported that C.R. Thompson has repeatedly exploited this improperly assigned violation of bias activity previously cited on my disciplinary history on his social media platforms with impunity. Now, he said that it was improperly assigned violation of bias activity. Yeah, you're right. It was improperly assigned, and we're going to touch on that in a second. Let me see what else I have here. On January 24th, 2022, OLR forwarded an email to SIR from Acto Hinske in which he provided a screenshot from Progressive Action TV's Twitter post. The Twitter post contained a copy of a Dan report purported to be that of Acto Hinske, which means that they really don't know, as well as a copy of an internal email exchange between former Department of Subway Service Delivery Vice President and Chief Officer Barry Greenblatt and former OLR Senior Director Leniak Surard, to which C.R. Thompson was not a recipient. Why did I do that? That email that I posted, you could go back to the show and look at it. They gave the date. They was attempting to cover up Hinske's violation. Now, we're going to get into that in a second. They was attempting to cover up Hinske's violation, and that email, which came from a source, proved that they was attempting to cover up the email, cover up the discipline, right? So that's why I posted that. And I posted his Dan because his Dan went from bias activity to ethics violation and nepotism. Now, I want to read one of the notes. It says, we note that effective March 6, 2020, Acto Hinske was issued a reinstruction which was initially mislabeled as bias activity and was subsequently changed to reflect the correct charge of an ethics and nepotism violation. Now let's unwrap that. Acto Hinske was issued a reinstruction which was initially mislabeled as bias activity. No, it was not mislabeled. It was purposely mislabeled, and the reason that Hinske then changed from nepotism to ethics violation was because I exposed that. A source gave me that, and I put it on my show to expose how the old boy network operate, right? What was bias activity? No, I reported him for nepotism and ethics violation, and you guys tried to water it down with something called bias activity. Why was it labeled bias activity? Because Hinske is very optimistic, right? He is someone, he's a go-getter when it comes in this company. He don't want to stop at Acto. He want to be chief officer. He wants to be vice president of Subways. He's very ambitious. That's the word I should have used. He's very ambitious, right? And he knows bias activity give him an opportunity to be more ambitious. Nepotism and ethics violation shuts that ambition down. So Charles Hinske is basically buried right now, and he knows that. And what he's trying to do, retaliate against me with false allegations as to why I was releasing his report. If you read this this investigation on me, you would think that, oh, Trammell was just releasing documents just to release documents because that's just the kind of guy he is. No, I was releasing documents because the MTA, now let me make sure I put this on the screen correctly. I was releasing documents because the MTA did not know this. Well, maybe they did know and didn't care. But I banged it into the MTA IGs in 2019. You see that 19? That stands for the year. 1015 stands for the month that I banged it in. So I banged this in 10/15/2019. Remember, I went to the MTA board meeting December 18th, 2019, exposing this. Makes sense? Do it make sense to you? So when Hinske was first complaining about me releasing his documents, I reported it to the MTA IGs, and I did not report it anonymously. I don't throw rocks and hide my hands. When I reported it, I said, release my name to the company. I wanted to let them know, I wanted to let Hinske know that I did this. I'm not hiding from him. I wanted to let you know that I did this since you was targeting me. See, I'm not one of those cats that do things anonymous. I'm not one of those people that throw rocks and hide my hands. Nah. I want to let you know that I did this to you. Also, that's not all. That's not all, people. So when I found out that Hinske, that more corruption was taking place, when Hinske friend didn't want to discipline him, because in that email, it took 6 months for them to issue any type of discipline after the investigation was done by SIR. 6 months, which shows that they didn't want to discipline him. They had no intentions on disciplining Hinske, his friends, right? And what happened with the bias activity, and then them changing it from nepotism to ethics violation, guess what I did then? I banged it into the IGs again. This one was in 2021. So before I even put it on my social media networks, I banged it into the IGs. See, that officially makes me a whistleblower. You guys was just following, and I'm not gonna say you guys, Miranda Grant, you was following Hinske blindly. You was following Hinske blindly. But on January 2nd, 2020, I told you that he was targeting me. I gave you witnesses of him targeting me. Now, let me read one more part of this damn packet. C.R. Thompson was out on workers' compensation from March 17th, 2020 until February 25th, 2021, and returned to work on February 26th. On March 5th, SIR attempted to schedule C.R. Thompson for an interview regarding these and other matters. However, Thompson informed us that he was scheduled for training. SIR attempted to once again schedule C.R. Thompson for an interview at the conclusion of his retraining. However, when SIR attempted to schedule C.R. Thompson, we discovered he was out on a subsequent workers' compensation claim and did not return to work. Thus, C.R. Thompson was not interviewed during the course of this investigation. How can I be the subject of an investigation and not be interviewed for it? That's because you guys didn't really care to interview me. This whole investigation on me was a witch hunt, and it was designed to stick me, right? Now, what's funny is you guys did not call me down for an investigation because I was on workers' comp. But when it came to the discipline and wanting to discipline me, and me being still on workers' comp, you guys made sure to send priority mail express envelope to make sure that I got the discipline. Not only that, y'all sent the discipline via regular mail. But for some strange reason, when it comes to workers' comp, sending IME appointments and stuff like that, or y'all just send it the regular mail and the person get it or not, because if they don't get it, it benefits you guys because you guys cut our benefits. But when it comes to discipline, y'all send it priority mail and y'all also send it regular mail. So we know what's more important to the MTA. It's not getting workers back to work healthy and safe. It's about discipline. It's about punishment. It's about big stick management. It's about sticking it to the workers. That's a whole nother show later. But let's get into some of the juicy part. I was out on comp, but during that January 2nd, 2020 interview, none of the witnesses I gave you was out on comp. None of them was out on comp for you to interview them of how Hinske was targeting me. Why didn't you interview them? That's because the MTA don't have no intentions on protecting you against upper management. They would protect you worker against worker. They would interview that all day and issue all types of discipline. When it comes to low-level supervisors, ATDs and TDs, those who not in the old boy network, they would discipline that all day. But when it comes to upper management, executive management, EEO, nor SIR is for you. I need the workers to understand that. When it comes to upper executive management and upper management, the MTA is not there to protect you or to substantiate any of your accusations or claims. They are not there for any of that. They are there to protect the company at that level because they know if they substantiate anything on that level, it's a lawsuit. Anything on that level warrants a lawsuit. They know that. So on that level, they're not there to protect you. That's why they didn't care to investigate any of my claims. They didn't care to interview any of my witnesses. Miranda Grant, why didn't you interview any of my witnesses? Are you going to say that you didn't know any of my witnesses or I didn't give no witnesses? What are you going to say? Remember, I named this show Checkmate. See, Miranda Grant, I ain't gonna lie, I didn't know this either. But after that 2-hour and change interview that I had with you and Joel Andrews, the person, my union rep with me for that day, said, Tramel, I recorded the entire interview. You probably gonna need this in the future. And I was surprised because I didn't ask. The rep did it on their own. The rep was like, you're gonna need to protect yourself against management one of these days. I think this may come into handy. Fast forward for when y'all brung these charges on me and I started reading the documents. I started to jog my memory and get my defense together. Hit the rep. You still got that recording? Recording? I don't remember what recording. All right, let me check. And guess what? I got the recording. On that recording, I mentioned my witnesses. You never interviewed my witnesses. In fact, you never investigated my claim against Hinske, or at least fully investigated it. Why didn't you interview my witnesses? Now, if you think that I'm joking about this recording, I want you to listen clearly to some of this.
This was a complaint against Mr. Thompson. We can examine it complaint.
No, I agree.
But you will probably have bosses over here. How's that
Let me explain
investigation going? You don't think so?
Let me explain something to you.
Explain it. I want to hear it.
We conduct in our respective units independent and fair investigations. Our job is to find out what happened. There is no one that can call to say this has to go one particular way. If that's the case, then we're not doing our jobs.
Correct.
We do not work for the Department of Subways. We do not work for the Department of Buses. We work for New York City Transit. So whatever is happening, if there's a culture to be changed, it starts in the investigative phase. That way we have our reports, we issue our reports, and the action that's taken as a result of the investigations is what then.
Now, Miranda, that's all I'm going to let you hear. Just to let you know that it's real. Right? Now, you mentioned y'all supposed to find out what happened. If that's the case, why didn't you interview my witnesses? That's because you didn't care to find out if Hinske was targeting me or not. Because if you had to substantiate anything against him, against me, you know that was a lawsuit for the company. And there's an unwritten rule that SIR practice and EEO practice regarding management and hourlies and how you guys are supposed to protect upper management. It's unwritten rule. All of that, we don't work for this, we don't work for that. It's all BS, it's all smoke screen and mirrors. You know who you work for. You know who you are there to protect. Let's make no mistake about it. You never had no intentions on figuring out if Hinske was targeting me. You never had the intentions on righting this wrong. You talk about a culture change and making this culture change. You are part of the negative culture here. You are a major part of the negative culture here because you guys are the gatekeepers of the negative culture. Ironically, a lot of people don't know this either. A few of the people on Progressive Action TV are also being investigated by SIR for bogus claims that don't make no sense. But I'm going to tell you this. I see how SIR work. And I ran into a manager, and me and this manager manager probably called me regarding something else. But we got into a friendly back and forth about SIR and EEO, and that I was wrong on how EEO is there to protect the company and not to be fair. Well, what you have to say for yourself now? Is somebody going to ask Miranda Grant why she didn't investigate my witnesses? Why she didn't interview my witnesses of Hinske targeting me? I have the whole recording, Miranda. I gave you the names. I told you who it was. And you did nothing about it. I would never subject myself to SIR ever again under these conditions. I do not trust y'all. You guys do not operate fairly. You guys operate under the same disguise as the old boy network. Discrimination and corruption. You guys can never be trusted again. Now, I've been doing these shows and I've been educating management on a few things. And I want to educate them on something called Labor Law Section 140. Now, this what I have on the screen right now was the one from last year. And basically the prohibitions of this law explains how a whistleblower is protected under the prohibitions of which a whistleblower is protected. And I'm going to read this because language is very important. Language is very important. Prohibitions. An employer shall not take any retaliatory personnel action against an employee because such employee does any of the following. A, discloses or threatens to disclose to a supervisor or to a public body an activity, policy, or practice of the employer that is in violation of law, rule, or regulation, which violation creates and presents a substantial and specific danger to the public health or safety, or which constitutes healthcare fraud. Now, I'm going to tell you guys the issue with that language. I had actually got into it with another manager, not really got into it, but was debating with them over these charges, the charges that the MTA brought against me about how I'm not covered under this act unless it have something to do with, what's that word again? It presents a substantial and specific danger to public health or safety, or which constitutes healthcare fraud. So in order to be protected by that, the Labor Law 740 in the past, it had to present a substantial and specific danger to public health or safety. Now, like I said, it changed. And this is the document to show you that it changed. It changed on January 26, 2022. And this is the new language. Prohibitions. An employer shall not take any retaliatory action against an employee, whether or not within the scope of the employee's job duties, because such employee does any of the following. A, discloses or threatens to disclose to a supervisor or to a public body an activity, policy, or practice of the employer that the employee reasonably believes is in violation of law, rule, or regulation, or that the employee reasonably believes poses a substantial and specific danger to the public health or safety. Do my lawyers out there, did y'all catch that language? See, in the past, it had to be in conjunction with public health and safety. With this new one, it stands alone. With the new one, it stands alone. Once again, it says policy or practice of the employer and the employee reasonably believes is in violation of law, rule, or regulation, or that the employee reasonably believes poses a substantial and specific danger to the public health or safety. You see how language means everything? You see how language means everything? MTA. Y'all have a problem on y'all hands. See, I did everything the right way. Before I went on to my show, before I went to the MTA board meeting, I banged it into the MTA IGs. And this is the game that they played. The MTA IGs, for some reason, didn't want to investigate none of the claims that I brought forth. Maybe that was corruption within itself. Maybe they was trying to not get involved. But what they did was they say that they sent it to New York City Transit to investigate. And guess who that person was in New York City Transit? Miranda Grant, SIR. The person who I went to in 2020, January 2nd, 2020, to make the initial complaints against Charles Hinske. When it comes out to this, my report, that they never mentioned that I went down there January 2nd, 2020 to complain about Hinske targeting me. They claimed that they didn't investigate me for this investigation because I was out on comp. But guess what? When I went to you on January 2nd, 2020, you never investigated or interviewed any of my witnesses. They wasn't on comp. Why didn't you interview them, Miranda Grant? You tried to come off as some wholesome individual, someone who stand alone. Your department is stand alone, and y'all really care about the individuals in that department. I mean, that come to you guys. No, you guys only care about management. That's the only people you care about is management and being a buffer between a lawsuit and manager and management at the MTA. Your job is to not have lawsuits come against MTA management for targeting workers, for discrimination, for corruption, for harassment. That's your job, Miranda Grant. You're not here for the workers. You're here to protect the corruption. Like I said, I have plenty of documents to release. I have plenty of emails to release. Plenty of dance to release. And if I got to go about it the proper way to do it, like I've been doing this whole time, you guys just decided to attack a whistleblower. If I have to release those documents, new documents, to make my brothers and sisters of New York City Transit a day better, then guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to release those documents to expose the corruption, to expose more nepotism, to expose discrimination, racism. I'm going to do it. Stop thinking that you guys are bigger than the program. You're not bigger than the program. The thing is that y'all never thought that y'all would be faced with something like this. A conductor who has a platform that reached thousands of people, a conductor that have relationships with the media, a conductor that have relationships with professional people worth millions of dollars. You guys never seen that coming. And what's crazy is that I don't have to use any of my resources to fight you guys back. This is going to be easy. So I don't mind getting disciplined during this portion because I know in court I'm going to win. I know in the court of public opinion I'm going to win. Instead of you guys just contacting me and say, Tremel, what's really going on here? What's the issue? You guys tried to discipline me into silence. It's not going to work. I'd rather get fired for something, fighting for something, than you guys trying to discipline me into silence. If I'm going to get fired, this is what I'm going to get fired for. This is a hill that I'm really willing to die on. And then think about this. I have a whole bunch of documents on you guys. If you fire me, how do you discipline me? Isn't the goal is to not get these documents out? If you fire me and I'm not an employee no more, are you going to call me the 2 Broadway and try to discipline me? I told you guys in the first show that I'm a journalist. You guys acknowledged that during the 2020 investigation that y'all put on me for 4 months trying to say I was committing workers' comp fraud, and which y'all acknowledged that I do shows on political, labor stuff, a whole bunch of stuff. I'm a unique individual. Something you never seen before. I have hours worth of recorded audio from you guys. And I say from you guys, why? Because I have plenty of sources, plenty of people in management who work here and who don't work here that have been working for me for the past couple of years, giving me information for the past couple of years to expose. Because this is who you are. And this, don't think it's limited. When I say old boys network, don't only think white people, because there's black people in this old boy network too, because they want to find a way to fit in. This is what they do. But best believe that this old boys network is controlled by a whole bunch of Caucasians. Hours worth of audio, recorded audio, of y'all recorded conversations, talking of targeting me and things of that nature. Emails, Dan histories. I have it all. I have it all. And guess what? I'm going to do the right thing. That's going to make my coworkers a day better. And it's going to show the people of New York City who really work for this company. How corrupt you guys really are. How much y'all discriminate and target y'all employees. How y'all don't care about pregnant women. How y'all don't care about the safety of workers and riders on this job. It's all virtue signaling. And Miranda Grant, once again, I got the entire conversation, the entire 2-hour and change conversation that I had with you and Joel Andrews. Why didn't you investigate my claims? At this point, it don't even matter. Checkmate.